Irish Socialist Republicans discussed the history and the status of the Republic of New Afrika with Comrade Haki Shakur, who is National Spokesperson and Minister of Information for the August 3rd Collective Organisation, which is part of the New African Independence Movement. In Ireland, the Provisional Government of a Revolutionary Republic was declared in 1916, and in 1969 the Provisional IRA continued that struggle in the north. While in the United States, the oppressed black nation declared the Provisional Government of a Republic of New Afrika in 1968, as the Black Liberation Army was developed to defend the people. To start our interview, we asked Comrade Haki Shakur, what is the Republic of New Afrika?
The Republic of New Afrika. Well, let me just state this. New Afrika is a distinct entity of a total working class nation. New Afrika has always been here since 1619 to 1660. The Provisional Government gave it its name in the General Laws, Creed, and Constitution in March 1968. Over 500 New African nationalists, activists, freedom fighters, organizers transcended on the city of Detroit in 1968 at a historic Black Government Convention. At the convention, the New African Declaration of Independence, the Code of Umoja, the New African Constitution, and the New African Creed was brought into existence by these 500 New African nationals. Over 100 signed the Declaration for Independence for New African Black people inside the Empire of the United States of America.
We next asked, when did the Republic of New Afrika become a concrete thing, and what were the developments that led up to it?
The Provisional Government of the Republic of New Afrika became a thing, I would say, 1969, early 1970s, through the 70s, to the early 1980s, to the mid-1980s, is when the Republic of New Afrika was at its highest development. Some of the history and movements leading up to the Republic of New Afrika, I would say that you would have to begin with our origins of being brought to this country. The struggle started immediately when our ancestors got off that boat. The New African Independence Movement and the struggle for independence and land initiated immediately. So through the slave periods of times, with the slave rebellions, the slave insurrections, slave revolutions, or whatever you want to call them, up until the periods of time after Reconstruction, when New Africans started to strive for self-determination and building independent Black towns throughout the United States of America. There's some early history of that struggle, but to bring it more recent in times in an ecosystem of struggle for land and independence, you would have to start with people like Martin Delany, Benjamin Pop Singleton, Harry Haywood, Tunis G. Campbell, Edwin P. McCabe, Elijah Muhammad, Marcus Garvey, Noble Drew Ali, Henry Adams, just all sorts of, struggles for independence, land, and nationhood. But I would have to say you will have to focus in on Harry Haywood and the Communist Party, who also supported some land for New Africans and Black people in the Black Belt, which the Communist Party would later abandon. So you will have to start off with Harry Haywood, moving up until we get to the period of time of El Hajj, Malik Shabazz, and the Revolutionary Action Movement with Max Stanford, who goes by the name Ahmad Muhammad. So between 1962, 1964, I would have to say Round and the Revolutionary Action Movement was the main movement that led up to the Republic of New Afrika. They were Amayists, Marx, Lenin, Malcolm X, theory movement that emphasized creating a black nation on some land, preferably Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia, Texas, Virginia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Florida. So this was when you're seeing the first actual movement that was struggling and advocating for land in those regions, the southern states. So I would have to give that credit to the Revolutionary Action Movement, moving up until the assassination of Malcolm X, when the Obadeli brothers, who chose to take on that struggle of Malcolm X after he was assassinated, when they created GOLD and the Malcolm X Society, which would later bring into existence the Provisional Government of the Republic of New Afrika.
What was the reason to declare an independent New African Republic?
So we know that we are a distinct people, a distinct entity, a black colony. So by knowing this, the Republic of New Afrika was formed and created to agitate, educate, and organize this nation for land, independence, and socialism. This can only be realized through revolution. Free the land.
What form did the Provisional Government take?
Upon its founding, the Republic of New Afrika, a president, vice presidents, People's Center, Council, and People's Revolutionary Leadership Council were elected, designated a New African population districts, also set up registrations for New African census, etc. This was a forming of a nation state. That's what people got to understand. An organized political body that was designed to give shape and form to existing New African people and a New African nation that was already being fully formed when we were forcibly removed from the African continent to the Western Hemisphere and to North America.
What were some key events that took place around the founding of the Republic of New Afrika?
Wow, there were so many key events throughout the struggle of the Republic of New Afrika. It may be too many to even name in this short time. But I would say, the main, like I said from the beginning, the Black Government Conference that was held in 1968 to sign into existence through the Declaration of Independence that took place in March 31st, 1968. I would say the next year in 1969 was a key event when the police shot their way inside of the New Bethel Church incident that took place in Detroit in 1969 on the first New African Nation Day, when New African security forces defended themselves so bravely against the Detroit Police Department. There's a lot of key events. I would have to say that another key event would take place would be in Black August at the Republic of New Afrika House in Mississippi, when that came under attack by the FBI and COINTELPRO, when they got into a shootout with some of the individuals and president of the Republic of New Afrika, Omari Obadeli, which would later become the RNA-11 case. For those who want to research that, that's a key event in a period of time. Some of the key people, and movements to, in an attempt to establish the New African Republic in the 1970s, I would have to say, first of all, we must acknowledge the Black Liberation Army, because a lot of the Black Liberation Army members were citizens of the Republic of New Afrika, and a lot of those individuals were struggling inside the New African Independence Movement, which is a movement of cadres and groups and organizations who struggled under the New African Independence Movement and who was fighting the struggle to bring, to liberate the Provisional Government of the Republic of New Afrika, for complete independence. So we got to always remember that also. The Black Liberation Army played the most important part. But then you had other groups and organizations and cadres who were a part of the New African independence movement who were fighting and struggling to establish the New African Republic. You will have to take that past the 70s into the 1980s, where we had groups like the New African People's Organization, the New African Maoist Party. You will have to include the Spear and Shield Collective that was under the tutelage of Owusu Yaki Yakuba, known as Atiba Shani, who was one of our major theoreticians of the movement. So yeah, there's movements. The New African Prisoners Organization, the Malcolm X Grassroots Movement, the August 3rd Collective, New African People's Liberation Army. There's several movements that still exist today.
Who were some key figures who helped establish the Republic of New Afrika?
Some of the key people of the Republic of New Afrika, you will have to start with the Obadeli brothers, Amari and Gaidi Obadeli. You had Robert F. Williams, who was the first president of the Republic of New Afrika. His wife, Mabel Williams. Betty Shabazz, who was actually a vice president of the Republic of New Afrika, who y'all know is Malcolm X's wife. The most important figure of the Republic of New Afrika, which is our Queen Mother Ali Moore, who actually was the first signer of the Declaration of Independence to bring the black government into existence, and who actually came up with the New African nationality and identity. So we must give all praises to her. You had a lot of individuals who were key individuals of the Republic of New Afrika throughout the period of time. Assata Shakur was a citizen of the Republic of New Afrika. You had Dr. Mutulu Shakur, who's currently incarcerated as a citizen of the Republic of New Afrika. Sekou Odinga, Iya Fulani Sunny Ali, Bilal Sunny Ali, Abdul Majid, so many, Russell Maroon Schultz, Chokwe Lumumba. I mean, it's so many names that I can't even remember. But, y'all do y'all research and you'll start to see all the key names and key figures that will pop up.
What was the response of the US government to the proclamation of the Republic of New Afrika?
The response of the U.S. state to this attempt to bring in existence a New African Republic was brutal, because you had the J. Edgar Hoover COINTELPRO counterintelligence program of the FBI, which initiated low and high intensity warfare on the Republic of New Afrika and every other black liberation movement or organization or individuals who existed in the 1960s and the 1970s. There were brutal, repressive attacks, murders, kidnappings. The most extreme was death and incarceration, where we still have political prisoners and prisoners of war today from the result of this response from the United States government against the Republic of New Afrika. You had the RNA 11, which I spoke of before, who were political prisoners and was a major big case in this country in a period of time when they came under attack by J. Edgar Hoover and the Mississippi Jackson Police Department. So yeah, the response was very, very brutal. It was very repressive, and it's the part of history that we need people to study, research, and understand about the Republic of New Afrika and every other black liberation movement. The state response.
What is the state of the New African masses today? Are they open to a Republic of New Afrika?
The state of the New African masses today, and are they open to an RNA? I would say yeah. If the RNA in the Republic of New Afrika which we're going through right now. We're in a rebuilding stage, but it's dormant, but it's still very, very, very active. I would say that because we still had a New African independence movement. Like I said before, we have various organizations, quadres, groups, collective leadership that's still active today for in the struggle for to bring the Republic of New Afrika into a nation state that's free on independent land. So I would say that if we continue to organize and mobilize that, like we need to at a high intensity level, and to educate our people and educate the masses and educate our youth and educate those who are seeking and looking for a solution and an alternative to what we have been, struggling with for this long in the United States of America as oppressed people, a colony, and all oppressed people, period. Yeah, I think the masses will truly, truly accept the Republic of New Afrika and will become citizens of the Republic of New Afrika. And those who would like to help, bring this into existence will intensify. But the key is the education, the agitation, you see what I'm saying? And the mobilization and organizing, getting out here in the communities across the United States of America to let the masses know that the Republic of New Afrika exists.
We asked Comrade Hadi to give us any final thoughts.
My final words and thoughts on if and how the RNA can be established in the USA in our lifetime, I would have to say we have to keep struggling. We have to keep moving forward. We have to keep on standing on the shoulders of those ancestors, those forefathers, those foremothers who laid down the black print, the blueprint to establish a black republic on this landmass. We have to keep following the directions. The directions have already been given. We have the New African Declaration of Independence. We have the Code of Umoja. We had a New African Creed. This is all that we need in order to bring in existence the Republic of New Afrika in this day and time. We have to keep struggling. We have to keep educating. We have to keep making people aware that the New African independence movement exists. Because if people don't know that this movement exists, then it'll stay at a standstill and it will remain dormant. But if we keep struggling and getting this education out there about the Provisional Government of the Republic of New Afrika and that it's an option, then I truly see it happening. It may not happen in my lifetime, but it will happen in one of our future generations' lifetime, if I want to put it in a proper context. Keep fighting, keep struggling forward. New Afrika will be a reality in our lifetime. Free the land by any means necessary.
America was built, understand, by stolen labor on stolen land. Take a second thought as you clap and stamp. Can you rock the house from inside the camp? As you moving to the beat to the early light, the country's moving to the right. Prepare now, all get high and wait, cause it ain't no party in the holy state.
That's it on we dare to be free. We gotta change the way we behave. We gotta sacrifice for our righteous cause or remain a passive slave.
We're not anti any other racial group, just understand we're pro-black.
And we're against any one of thing that tries to hold us back.
So think, but don't take too long. The time is getting late.
And DJs, if you got a mic, it's your job to educate.
Well, I know my voice is not rated S. We didn't talk about money or talk about sex. We didn't talk about clothes or cars and things. And you might be tired of my lecturing. So while you dance and while you sing, all we want to do is ask just one thing. While you dibby-dibby-dies and so socialize, are you gonna help the black nation rise?
You dibby-dibby-dies and so socialize. How we gonna make the black nation rise?
How we gonna make the black nation rise? Gotta agitate, educate, and organize. How we gonna make the black nation rise?
Agitate, educate, organize.
How we gonna make the black nation rise?
Agitate, educate, organize.
Gonna organize, organize.
Agitate, educate, organize.
Gonna agitate and organize.
Agitate, educate, organize.
Gonna educate, organize.